Okay, so for this next video, we're going to take a look at being able to use arrays as the parameters of a method, as well as being able to return arrays from methods. So we're going to go ahead and make another program or another project. I'm going to call this one array methods.java. So I do my public class array methods. Go ahead and have our main method, so do public static void main. Have our string arguments, and inside of here, for right now, I'm going to go ahead and not include anything with this. Instead, we'll focus mostly on just getting these methods put together. So for this very first one, we'll take a look at being able to use an array as one of the parameters of a method. So I'm going to use this one to essentially just print out the contents of the array. So we're going to have our public static. I'll do void for this one since we're not going to return anything from it, and I'll call this one show array. And inside of here, we're going to specify the data type as going to be an int array, since we're just going to go ahead and print out the individual integers of this int array. So we're going to do that data type, and then we'll call it something like nums. Okay. And then inside of here, I'm just going to go ahead and create that for loop so that we can step through each of the locations of the array and print out the value at each location. So we'll do for int index, go to 0, index less than whatever the length happens to be. So I'm going to get some usage out of that, that length field of my array. And then we'll increment. And then we'll just go ahead and say system.out.println at position, and then whatever the index is. And then we'll go ahead and print out the value at that position of the nums array. Okay. So then coming up here, we'll go ahead and create an array. So we'll call it integer numbers. We'll say that this is equal to, let's go ahead and initialize this by just giving it some values to begin with. We'll give it 3 values, say something like 8, 16, and 24. And then right underneath it, we'll just go ahead and make a call to our show array method, and we're going to pass in that numbers array. Okay. So we're going to take the numbers array and we're going to pass that in. So that's going to be assigned to this int array nums, and then we're going to use that, the name nums, within the scope of this show array method to just print out each of the values at each location of it. So we'll go ahead and save that. We'll come over here. We'll compile our array methods program, and then we'll go ahead and run it. Okay, so then we'll see at position 0 we have the value 8, at position 1 we have the value 16, and at position 2 we have the value 24. All right. And then the other thing we'll take a look at is being able to return an array. So do public static. For this one, we want to specify the return type to be, in this case, an integer array. So we're going to do int array. And then for this one, we'll do something like, let's call this make array. For this one, we don't need to pass anything into this. Instead, what we're going to do with this is just use this to create and initialize our array. So for this one, I'm basically going to take what I have right here and essentially just do that within this method. So we're going to have our integer array. We'll call this one again just nums. Let's say this is equal to those values 8, 16, and 24. And then we'll go ahead and return nums. Okay. And then up here, instead of assigning this, we're just going to assign this make array to it. Okay. So the expectation here is that because we're returning an integer array from this make array method, up here we can just go ahead and assign that returned array that we got. We'll assign that to this numbers variable, and then we'll use the show array method to go ahead and print out the contents of it. So we'll use both of these methods together, basically achieve the exact same functionality as what we had before. We'll go ahead and compile this, and then we'll run it, and we'll see that we get the exact same output. Okay. So one thing to note about this that you again might be aware of already, I mentioned before that whenever we make an array that we're creating an object of a class, So technically, because of that, whenever we are doing something like, say, returning this nums back to the main method, or we're passing numbers as a parameter into the showArray method, we're not actually passing the array itself, but rather we're passing the reference to that array. So it's important to keep in mind that because of that, just like I mentioned whenever we talked about using objects with methods, that because we're passing around a reference to it, that there are going to be instances where you have two different variables that are both referencing the same array. And so in a couple of videos, I'm going to show you a little bit about the issue with that, and then also show you how you can go about correcting that by actually creating two separate arrays with identical contents in them.